I said, I'm very used to Zoom, so that's okay. Try taking a Zoom deposition. I've been a litigator for 31 years. I've represented boards. I've represented, I'm currently in the city attorney for a city where we represent the board. I've sat on nonprofit boards. I've sued nonprofits. So I've got a wealth of experience both in like the construction industry, employment law, things like that. And that's kind of the background that I feel like will bring some experience to the board. You know, I've talked to my sons. I've got 3 sons. One of them is my law partner. One of them took the bar exam in July, and I'm hoping he's my law partner here in October. And then my other son's a real estate broker. He just passed real estate exams, so they all come down here. And I tell those guys, you have to give back to your community, and you need to get involved in nonprofit organizations. And this is my way of, you know, putting my money where my mouth is. I got paired up with our president one day. He and I had never met each other. And he made the suggestion that, hey, you might be interested in joining the board. And I thought about it. I said, you know, you're right. If I was ever going to get involved and sit on another board, this is the one, because I love this place more than anywhere else in the state of Colorado. I love bringing people down here and hearing them say, this is the most beautiful place I've ever been. And so I would like to bring the experience that I have as an attorney and as somebody that loves this environment and try to see if I can put it together to sit on this board. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Marvin.
Hello, I'm Marvin McDaniel. I'm a native of Colorado. Been a member of the club since, Bill might have to correct me, either 2008 or 2009. He looked it up for me. So I've been here when the club was having hard times, and unbelievable how the club is today. And I'd like to, you know, play a part, make a difference in continuing that trajectory that the club has. My brother-in-law invited me. He was a member years ago, and like Andy, I played it once, saw how beautiful it was, and wanted to become a member, and I did. My business background, I have a degree in accounting and a master's in finance. I'm a CPA, but inactive. I worked for Excel Energy for 31 years. And I retired as the chief administrative officer. So I ran everything that nobody else wanted. Yeah, so I had IT, I had human resources, I had marketing, I had resource planning, which is the long-term planning of generation assets for Excel. And I had the customer call center, or customer care. So a lot of different things. And I think some of those, you know, some of that background or experience, I think would be helpful, I hope, to the club. I retired in 2018 from Excel, so 4 years now. It's been the best 4 years of my life. Played a lot more golf in the last 4 years. I wasn't completely not working though. Right as I was retiring, I had the honor of being nominated by Governor Hickenlooper to the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission. So I served on that commission for a 4-year term, which ended in fall/winter of 2021. I was a member of the Finance Committee on the CPW's commission, as well as the chair my last year. So hoping that some of that experience, some of that passion for this club, for this state, and I really enjoyed and thought it was an honor and a privilege to serve all citizens of the state for CPW. And I'm looking forward, if I'm elected, to serving the members of this club.
I have to admit, those departments sound awful. All right, Bob, last but not least.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Lesh. Been a member here, had a business membership here starting in 2009. Wasn't here a lot, just a few times a year entertaining clients. But 4 years ago, we pushed our youngest out the door to college, and we built a house over in Larkspur, and we'll see me around here, my wife Melanie, and some of our boys from time to time when they're in town see us around a little more often now. Business background, always been in finance, managed investment portfolios, managed $1 billion back when $1 billion was really a lot of money. And now it seems like most people have that. An aircraft leasing firm under retainer with Goldman Sachs, leasing aircraft to airlines around the world. And then helped, a friend of mine found an investment advisory business. Been involved with that for the last 6-7 years or so. And I'm trying to do the kind of sort of maybe I might be a little bit retired thing. Started that first of the year, not quite sure how I feel about it yet, but in terms of the experience that I bring here, that's a little more specialized. I'm currently the member of Columbine, or the president of Columbine Country Club in Littleton. One of the premier clubs in the city. $12 million annual revenue budget, 495 full golf members plus social activities and the whole menu of country club amenities as well. So a lot of experience there. I've been on the board there twice. First time I started the strategic planning committee and developed a project to build the new clubhouse. If any of you have seen it. It's been open for 5 years now. It's a $27 million project. And then this time around on the board, I was working on strategic planning, and my focus was primarily around driving culture at a club that had changed so much. And then was voted by the board to serve as president for the last 2 years. Those duties wrap up at the end of this year. That'll free up a good chunk of my time, and I'd like to invest that time here.
That's some amazing background. Thank you, gentlemen. So moving forward, 2-minute time intervals. Kind of be mindful of that and choose your words wisely, I guess you can say. Like I said, Lori will give you kind of a wave when you kind of get close to that 30-second mark. We're not going to treat this like a presidential debate where you can go to something. So we're going to keep it to the time limit as best we can. So I'd kind of like to bounce around a little bit. So we'll still start with Gary for the first question, and for the second, and so on and so forth. So don't feel like you always have to be first. So, but we will start with you for this one, number one. So why are you running for the board? Stand by for 1 second. Give you a couple extra seconds. Well, Lori, don't start the timer yet.
It's an offer from Bill.
Well, when I ran last year, I was serving 1-year term, so I got kind of a taste for the board and kind of jumped in. I volunteered to be secretary, which primarily people didn't, was the last one standing, I think. Also chaired up the membership committee and the renamed marketing communications committee, and then Ted asked me if I would then head up the strategic planning efforts, which is a lot of my background in the oil and gas industry, working on strategic planning and management efforts. So during the last year, working with the board, we were able to update all of our documents, all of our governance documents, all of our committee charters. We introduced new governance guidelines, because we were running into things that we didn't have some good examples of how to move forward with. And then we are real close to producing at the annual meeting our strategic plan going forward. That's kind of at the heart of my desire, was to help the club move from, as we have, we're in a very good position right now, but we need to be planning wisely going forward. And we've kind of put the framework together to help both our management team run their business as well as the board to look at the future. And we've got that framework set up, and I'd like to be part of the board to start implementing that strategic plan that we've been working on for the last, at least for the last year.
Fantastic. Good fun to be a part of that. Let's go to Andy next.
I don't know that you can tell a lawyer you can only talk for 2 minutes. I don't know that we can do that. But why am I running for the board? You know, really, to be honest with you, I really just wanted to be involved. Okay, I love this place. There's so much special about Perry Park and the iconic nature of this club, that when I talk to different people or I hear from guys like this with this type of background, it just speaks to how amazing this club is and the amount of talent that's in this club and the people that love this club. I've enjoyed everybody that I've dealt with, both in the general manager, your predecessor, and also in the membership office. You know, this is a first-class club. And as I indicated, I mean, in my experience, I've been involved both sitting on boards and then representing boards, and I've also unfortunately been in litigation with boards. And I feel like I bring kind of a diverse experience level on, you know, what the do's and don'ts and what we should do and fiduciary obligations and things like that. And I just felt like, you know what, it's time to be a part of it. And instead of being somebody that's sitting on the outside, answering questions and advising boards and trying to keep people out of trouble, or if they're in trouble, get them out of trouble. It's time for me to get involved. And I'm 55 years old. I've got my kids out of college and law school now. And you know what, I plan on spending a lot more time down here. And quite frankly, whether I get elected or not, I'm proud to be sitting up here with these guys with this type of experience. And I mean, that says a lot about you know, what's going on. Now, I've had the guy from the Court of Appeals give me 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That was just a way.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You still have 13 seconds.
Okay. I just always like when you're done early. So, you know, there you have it.
Well done. Marvin.
Well, I've been a member a long time, I guess comparatively, but I haven't really enjoyed the club as much as many others. I worked at Excel, as I told you, and for 15 years, I went to Minneapolis every Monday morning and came home every Thursday afternoon. So I didn't play much golf until I retired about 4 years ago. And the things, like Andy, the things that I like to do, I like to get involved with, and I like to volunteer. I'm really interested in helping disadvantaged children. I was on the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters in Colorado for about 15 years, and I was chair of that board before I left. I'm currently in the advisory board for Alliance of Choice in Education, ACE. And then, of course, the work I told you about for Colorado Parks and Wildlife, because I'm an avid outdoors person. Like to hunt, fish, hike, bike, anything that's outside, as well as golf. And so that's really what's driving me to do this. And one of the things when I saw the need for a board member was governance. I was a coordinating officer for Excel for what they call the Governance Compensation and Nominating Committee of the board. So I worked directly with the board of Excel on governance, as well as compensation, although we don't get paid. So that part won't be needed, but also nominating, finding new board members. So I think that experience, I'm hoping can help. And if not as a board member, maybe I could offer some advice to the folks who are elected. So, thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Bob.
Well, I think it sounds like there's a lot of good candidates up here. You probably can't go wrong. So if you go alphabetical, you know, Andy, Osmus, he's got it. And then the rest is a toss.
So we didn't have a contract. So thank you.
Why am I running for the board? I've been too busy with other things to do it until now. I've been approached by board members and leading members of the club for a few years to see if I'd be interested in serving the club in some way. And now I have the opportunity, and I want to bring my experience that I have in this environment, along with, you know, other business things, but all the club experience, just for perspective. Obviously, this is very different from that other clubs that I've been involved with, and I recognize that. And you know, I have no notion that we want to be that or they want to be this. We have our own unique identity, and I want to help make this place better and help keep that identity and grow it with all the change I see coming to this area, at least, you know, geographically, demographically, over the next 15, 20 years. I'd like to be somebody that can help put ideas out and help manage change, and I see a lot of change on the horizon.
Good. All right. Thank you for everybody's input. Question number 3, what are your top priorities for the club? And I'm very interested in this as well. So, yeah, start with this then.
You know, I think there's a couple of them for me. I think it was in May of this year. My middle son graduated law school. And as a gift to him, I got him a professional membership to this club. And the reason I did that is because this is an experience that I want my son's family to.
Muting. Okay, all good.
So my point was, I'm sorry, what did you say? This happens in court more than you think of it. So I got my kid a membership, pro membership, and I got him that as a gift for graduating law school. And we went in and I got an opportunity to meet with our membership folks, and they got him set up. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but you treated him like he was the most important person that ever walked the planet. And to me, that's my priority, is the members that we have. You showed him that, you know, he's a 25-year-old kid who you don't know from a hole in the wall. And you showed him the type of grace, and you made that kid feel like he's the most important person on the planet. To me, that's number one priority, is making our members feel like they are the most important people. My priority as membership is not necessarily growth of membership. It's taking the members that we have and making them feel like they're the most important person. That when they pull off a Red Rock Drive and they take that deep breath to come here and play golf or go to dinner or have a wedding or, you know, go to the Easter egg hunt or go to Mother's Day, that this is the most important place that they come to. So membership, the other thing, if I'm getting the 5 minute, hiatus there is, I'm big on, you know, fiscal conservatism, and I want to make sure that we're focused on that as well. But primarily, I want to take care of the members that we have, and that includes the members that are original members that started with this club and that were the backbone of this club when it started, all the way to the new guys like my kid. And I really do appreciate everything you did for him. It meant a lot to me, it meant a lot to my family, and so it emphasizes why I want to be a part of this.
Fantastic. Marvin?
Well, I think our answers would probably be pretty similar. I think when we chatted right before this began, we all talked about how great the trajectory of the club is. And I couldn't be more proud of the current board, Gary, and the work it's done, the investments that are being made, and the pace at which they're being made, excellent fiscal governance of this club. So it's really hard to think about, what would I really want to change? And I think the only thing would be to talk about what Andy said, and that's focus on the member experience. And whether that be dining, events, golf, it's a great experience now. And I think we can continue to make it better and look at, maybe other best practices and say, what else could we add to our club? But I think that's why our membership is as robust as it is, and why it's been so successful. So if I did anything, it would be not to screw things up.
That's right.
Okay, top priorities for the club. And just going by the notes that you might have seen on my candidate statement. For me, strategic planning, that keeps coming up. And again, that goes to change and change management. Going back to Columbine, we built that new clubhouse. Things weren't great then. All of a sudden, in the last 5 years, we now see that 40% of the members there in the club is full, but 40% have been there fewer than 5 years, or less than 5 years. And when I see the changes with Dawson Ridge or whatever it is, 5,000 new homes coming to fill in this corridor, another 2,000 over in Crystal Valley, it's going to take a while, but we need to think ahead and prepare for a significant change in the demographics of our club over time. I think our average age is 60-ish here or so. And when you're full at age 60 and it really gets a year older, every year, all of a sudden your average age is 65 before you know it, and that doesn't really sustain a club. So we're going to have to manage that change and that influx of newer members. Managing that change is interesting. The newer members have to appreciate the traditions and the older members that kept this thing alive this long. And the members that have been here longer have to understand that they have to embrace change to stay current and relevant with the new community as it builds around them. So that one actually got into my second piece, that's that culture, where we really need to build that bridge so that older members that have been here longer don't feel like their club gets taken away from them just through the influx of new population in the area over time. And finally, governance. Gary, I read the document, it's awesome. There's always work to do on governance. One thing I know, we used to have the other place, 1-year presidential terms. And I think best practice says you can't get much done in a year. You need to look at the length of those terms and how you can be most effective. So the 3 years for a board member, 1-year presidential term, I think some of those things we have to look at to really, once we have a plan and build momentum, that we can keep that momentum.
Great, thank you. Gary?
Well, it kind of said all the great things. I'm gonna do something. But I think, just as there's a couple of things that I reflected on, and one is that we've really been fortunate. We've had a lot of great successes, and that is because of the work of the board, but also the management team and the members to support the board and the management team. We go back to, we've hired a new manager, stepped in for Andrew, and Nate's done a great job. He has a strong team beneath him that is running the club. And they're doing it with a very professional and courteous manner, which is great. Over the last year, we've approved 2 big capital improvements for this club, and that's due to the members having the faith to say we will pay dedicated capital fees and dues, and trusting that the board will do the right thing with the fees and the dues that we're receiving. We're at a full membership cap now. That's due to a very strong professional team, just as we just heard one story. There's a lot of those stories that are attracting people to come to our club and to join this membership and to feel welcome. And so we're at that cap, we're at our capacity, and we're trying to manage those kind of frictions and the things that we enjoy in being full membership. We've got a great golf course right now. It's people have been here for a long time, have said they haven't seen the quality and the beauty of the course at the level that we're at now. And that's because we have a great management team running that and some real experience and support. And our social memberships are coming up. They're enjoying the Manor House and the improvements. So I think for me, it is building on those successes that we can continue kind of where the progress we're going. The second area is we now need to develop a master plan for our facilities, our golf course, our Manor House, so that we do spend the money that we are getting and we're spending it wisely in the right direction to support what the members want to enjoy. And for me, I think that's the big work that we need to do now is plan for the future. What does this club look like in 5 years? If we know where we're going, then we can start putting the pieces in place to get there. And I think I can help with that. And I'm excited to be part of that if you think that's appropriate.
Thank you very much. All right, last question. And we're gonna start with Marvin. How would you envision the board interacting with the management team and the members?
Okay. There's an old saying, I heard a long time ago on boards, it's nose in, fingers out. And I think that's the way board members should operate. You mentioned it, Gary, and I think it's really important. We have, other than the course itself, the greatest asset this club has, it's its employees. We have an excellent team. And the board, in my mind, should not be involved in the day-to-day operations of the club. That's what we hired Nate and all of you for, to do that. Our job is what we also spoke about, all of us, that's strategic planning, long-range plans, making sure we come up with sound policies, providing guidance, providing advice, providing experience, and making sure to guide the club to that long-range plan and providing good governance in doing so. And I think that's really the interaction, hopefully, that the employees would want from us. They would also want from us for us to listen to concerns or issues or ideas, and bring those to the right committee or to the board itself, so that we can move it forward. I think the same goes, frankly, for membership between the board and its members. Our job is, again, not to intervene directly with member ideas or member concerns, but to take those concerns in and bring them back to the committees, bring them to management, bring them to the board, and take appropriate action, as needed. But the biggest thing I think the board can do is listen to the membership. Again, I think it's part of the entire member experience that we provide, and one of the most important things that we could do. Thank you.
Bob?
Very consistent with what we're hearing, all the way down the table is, I feel the board has to be strategic in nature. The board can help do a good job getting a first-class management team in place to run the operations and let them do their jobs. And a person like Nate, smart enough to know that, hey, board committee member, I'd like your thoughts on this. I need some help with this operational issue. And then the board can chime in because they were asked. Otherwise, it's developing a strategic plan involving management in that, then letting management execute on the tactics along the way.
Gary?
We're a member, our club is a member of a network of clubs that collaborate and share best practices. We call that club benchmarking, but it helps us identify traits that make clubs highly successful, and we want to be highly successful. There's a benchmark that says successful boards spend 70% of their time on strategy and 30% of their time on day-to-day operations. We can only do that when we have a strong management team. You've heard us talk about how strong our team is. We have good matrices to measure performance. We have open door conversations all the time with the management team. But what we try not to do is micromanage. That's because we do have a very proficient team, and it is working as a single organization to do that. That allows us to focus on the strategic plan. Some of the new things we put in place is some new induction training for board members. People like Bill Riley, who have been on the board before, has emphasized how important it is to have continuity between the boards. And we now have some processes in place to do that training and keep that knowledge. But we've had a lot of members participate on boards and committees, and we have been very dependent on the knowledge and the expertise of our members to be involved. Many have done that for many years. There are a lot of members that have not been involved. And the challenge is to bring the members that have not been involved, to get them involved in this member-owned club, so that they can also contribute and benefit from the value of all the membership. And that's what I look forward to, is helping and get people involved and working with the members that want to be involved, just like everybody up here, and finding a place for everybody to have their input.
I'm gonna echo that, but I mean, my own experience, I had a random tee time that I ended up playing golf with the president of the club. And he didn't have to ask me after 17 holes, hey, do you have any interest in joining the board? But I mean, the fact that he did reach out to me is the only reason I'm really sitting here. Nobody ever really talked to me about doing it or anything like that. He asked me randomly one day, didn't know me, and it sparked my interest to look into it. And as these guys all said, it's such a great group of people, whether you've sat on the board previously or you sit on the board now. Everybody is interacting with one another. And I would echo the sentiments of what everybody's up here. Everything I see is obviously through a lens of a litigator, so I hate to say that, but I see the pitfalls. And a lot of the pitfalls on these boards have to do with micromanaging the people that are under you. You have to hire the right people. Nate, they hired the right people. Andrew, your predecessor, they hired the right people. when you get good people, you have to let them do your job. These guys up here all have experience in the business world, have sat on boards. They will be there to provide advice, counsel, and so forth. And if problems arise, then you get involved and do it. But if you don't hire the right people, that's on you. That's not their problem. Once you hire the right people, you got to let your team do the job. Now, the second part of that question is, how do you envision interacting with the members? It's exactly what your president did with somebody like me. Just introduce yourself, talk to him, go up and talk to him. As a board member, I mean, I've never met Gary before tonight, but now I'm gonna, every time I see him down here, I'll know who he is and go talk to him. You know, you gotta be interactive with people and make them feel welcome. And so I do think that you have to listen more than you talk, and you have to be outgoing and go and introduce yourself to people to make them want to sit on a board. Maybe you've sat on a board previously, and there's a particular project where we could reach out and say, you know what, you've had experience in this. Let's bring them in and have them be part of it. It's all about communication and making people feel welcome. And, you know, I still to this day appreciate, you know, our president looking at me and saying, hey, do you have any interest in this? That's how I got involved. And I think these guys, I think everybody has a consensus. You don't micromanage your employees. That's how you get in trouble. We all have experience. We can provide insight and some counsel to Nate if need be. But Nate, you're the guy in charge. You know, you're the head coach of this team. So, you know, don't screw it up.
No pressure. Gentlemen, thank you so very much. I'm excited for this process. This is the future decision making of the club. I mean, this is a lot to take in, and I hope the membership doesn't take that lightly. I hope everybody online, live right now, or if you watch this when we get done with this, you take all this information in and choose wisely. There's going to be a lot coming forward with this club, and I know it's going to be nothing but great, and I'm excited for it. And obviously, we talked about the membership retention, and pre-COVID, that was how are we going to get members here. But I think my mantra coming in here as well, we got them. How do we keep them? And just that membership engagement, membership interaction. Man, you've been absolutely phenomenal with that too. So kudos to the team that I walked into. So that's kind of been my thing too. I'm just trying not to get it anyway. So we are going to open this up to questions, whether you're here or online. I think Lori's got access to that. But member voting, e-ballots will be going out on Monday, the 12th. So look for that in your inbox. Actual physical ballots will be here at the clubhouse that following Tuesday. So we do have a Monday event happening on Monday. So Tuesday, if you're not available to send that in online, we will have physical ballots here as well. These ballots are due back by the 12th of October. So just for everybody's information on that, keep those dates in mind, and keep an eye on your inbox for those e-ballots that come your way. So makes our life a lot easier if you can do it that way. And then you can have all that information really at hand. So at this time, I'd like to open it up for questions either in the room or online, if anybody has any. Back here.
We're electing one board member, 3-year term.
Two.
We're electing 2 board,
Yes.
more 3-year term.
Yeah, but just to give you a bit of background, what happened last year, so my term is up. And Gary's term is up, although he's only been there a year. He stepped in for David Aspinwall resigned at the end of last year. And what we do is Gary stepped in and did the 1-year term, but he's done. The term of that board position is done. So 2 positions.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to know, I've been a member here for 35 years. And a member of the TPWGA, which I hope you all know what that is, the Perry Park Women's Golf Association. I've served on Grounds and Greens Committee, I've served on the GTH committee. And I'm just wondering, for each of you, if you are, who you play golf with, if you are members, I know we have a lot of smaller groups, a lot of larger groups. Who do you play golf with when you're here?
Start with Bob this time, since he didn't get to go first yet.
Honestly, I don't plan way far ahead. And I like to just throw my name in where I see a place on the tee sheet. that works, and sometimes I know somebody that's on there, sometimes I don't. That's how I get to know a few more people when I haven't been here, as often as I'd like, so. I'm that guy that jumps into your T sheet. If I see somebody has 2 guests, I'll usually send them an email ahead of time and say, hey, if this is a business thing, I don't want to intrude. But if the space is open, I'd love to play with you. So that's how I felt it.
Gary?
Try to play all the time I can. And so I played on the Friday and Saturday groups during the day. And then on the Thursday group I play. And I do that when Diane and I aren't traveling, or we have camping, or we have other activities, and I try to play in the classic tournaments and the invitational. And one of the fun things I get to do is I work for the Colorado Golf Association as a volunteer to rate courses. And I do that, so I get to play on other courses around the state of Colorado. And that's been my goal, is to try to play as many courses as I can. So that's how I try to fit in my time when I says I can play.
I've got 3 sons, so I kind of have a built-in foursome. But generally speaking, we don't get together that much. So I know I've mentioned our president a few times. I'm the same way. I basically just look at the T sheet and just try to get on. I've played with a lot of different people who I have no idea who they are. And I've learned that I played with a gentleman who owns a ranch right across from where we own. I didn't know he owned the ranch. We had a great time. And so I played with my wife and my mother-in-law. I think you probably know my mother-in-law. She used to play, Nancy Cost used to play down here forever. And unfortunately she broke her hip, but she's back at it. And so I play with my wife and my mother-in-law quite a bit. We try to play like the 5:30 round and get those times in, but I'm kind of the same way. I just look at the T sheet, try not to interfere with somebody if it looks like they got family group. My son got married this year, so it seems like I brought a bunch of out of town people that had never played, and it was some of the proudest moments of my life to be able to take people from. I mean, I got my best friend, a guy named Doug Wydell, used to play for the Broncos. He now lives in Jacksonville, Florida. I brought him to Perry Park, and he said to me, he's like, "This is the prettiest place I've ever played." So that's coming from Florida. So that was a pretty proud moment for me. So that's who we generally play with.
Funny because Keith in the coach office now, he's tagging this line, but he says, Perry Park, beautiful course in America. He's telling that to everybody. So
There's no doubt.
and I agree.
And we had a bear that walked down the fairway. It's unbelievable. So we had it all.
Mark.
Well, for the 15 years of traveling to Minneapolis, I played 5 or 6 rounds a year. So this had to be the worst investment ever for me to be a member of the club, but I'm glad I stayed. I think Bill told me that they looked at a list every year for folks who didn't play very much, that they wondered if they in danger of quitting when we were at low membership, and I never was in danger of quitting, but the last year or so, I've done very similar to the rest of the gentlemen here. Started just to play randomly, met quite a few members, especially this summer. Finally joined based on Bill's badgering the men's golf league, played in a few tournaments and playing in the classic this weekend. So looking forward to meeting more members, but it's been a real, I'll call it deficit of mine, quite frankly, not to play more golf and to meet more members.
Great answers.
I have 2 questions on
2 questions online. Go ahead.
2 questions online. So the first one is share your thoughts on how you would appeal to younger people seeking membership to continue to grow our club.
Thanks.
So it's Gary.
That's Gary.
Well, I think for this organization, it's really important to get the families. The challenges we have with families is this is a golf club. And we do have a great dining facilities and manor house, but that's mostly what we do. So our attraction with the Project 18 or Hole 18 being done and new practice facilities, that'll be a very nice facility. We have some recognized instructors and golf pros, and that's really our drawing to the younger crowd and the, potentially the high school players and the kids just starting. We'll have some really nice facilities for them to practice on and to learn and bring their parents along and get them to join so that it's, I think it's kind of the key to our lifeblood is to get the families and open up the golfing for each of them.
My three sons got taught by Foxy down here, if you remember Foxy down here for junior golf. And that was some of the funnest times we've ever had, just walking around, watching these guys in the 3-hole group and then the 9-hole group and so forth. And so, I think bringing young people out, I don't know what the size of the junior golf program is anymore, but I know it's growing and very big. But people like that really instill the love of the game in my sons. I know, as I indicated, my 25-year-old son's now a member here, and I felt like it was important for him because I know how much he loves the game and I know how much this place means to him. And I thought it would be something that would be very meaningful for him to be a member here. And I have no doubt in my mind, he'll be somebody that'll be here for 50 years. Because it means that much to him. And so I think you really got to, it's one of those things where you bring them down, you expose them to what it is, you have different programs for younger folks, and I think you're gonna naturally attract them. And I also think that the course sells itself. So when you bring down a guest or somebody like that, that's a younger person, I've never once had anybody, like I said, we just had a wedding 2 weeks ago, and we had a bunch of 25-year-olds that were from Illinois. They've never seen red rocks like this before. So, the more you can expose kids to that, as far as my family goes, it was really junior golf. And so that was something that I could see where young families and the opportunities for their kids to learn and play and be involved. I think that was very important.
I think Gary said the most important thing, and that is the change in 18. Adding a facility with regards to, chipping, putting, we can do training, we can do classes. I mean, we realize this is only a golf club. We don't have tennis, we don't have a pool, we don't have the amenities Columbine Country Club does to attract maybe some other families that might want to join. So what we have to sell is that we are a premier golf club. We're also logistically challenged from being close to a more denser population center to be closer for families and younger members who want to come to. So we're at a little bit of a disadvantage there. But the advantage we have is once they get here and they see the club and they play the club, they want to join. And because of our excellent fiscal governance, we are still a bargain in the state of Colorado, whether it be the initiation fee or the dues. So if they get to come here, they get to play, they look at the economics behind it. I think that's what will continue to attract membership and why we continue to sell memberships here at the club.
I go back to culture on something like this when I look at integrating newer, younger members into our club. And one of the things I think we can get better at is welcoming them into the system and integrating them into the membership, whether it's through an ambassador program where you play golf, a younger member can come in and sign up to play golf with a group of the longer tenured members and kind of get to know some people that way. And how do things work and how do you do this here at this club? How do we get off the grass range over there? Do we have our shirts in and out? All those things that help somebody feel comfortable rather than trying to guess at what the rules are and what the culture is. Anything we can do like that and get them comfortable on the way in. How do you sign on to 4Ts? What are the X's all about? How does this work? When's a good time for me to play? I think those things and making that member experience for the people that a lot of young members, especially with the economy as strong as it was over the last several years, had never been members of a private club before and just don't know. And we need to teach people how to be good members along with us as they come into the club.
Okay, I have one more.
Yep.
What do you feel like is the biggest? What do you feel is the biggest challenge or improvement that needs to happen on the golf course besides the new practice area?
You know, I'd like to par number 5, if I could, because that seems to be my big concern. No, I'm, you know, the sad part about it is I think I'm somewhat of a jinx because when I first joined, this was like 15 years ago or so, is when they started the project on 5 and 6. So I joined and like literally 3 weeks later, they started ripping up that course. And then when we went to the full membership is when I got told that we were moving 18. So, you know, that's, I may be the jinx. You know, as far as the club goes, as far as the next amenity, is that what essentially is the question?
Well, yeah, what? Mhm. Yeah,
Biggest
biggest change on that the course needs to have, besides the practice area.
You know, quite honestly, I don't think change just for the sake of change is the right call. I think at some point in time, you have to realize that, as he indicated, maybe we are logistically challenged. I look at it as a positive. I want to come down here. I don't want to be in the city. This is almost like coming to a vacation for me. So for that person that asked that question, I think what I would say is, right now, with what we have going on, I wouldn't change anything about the golf course itself. I think that the way it's set up, the iconic nature of this club, one of the cool things about this club is that when you come and play, you can play from a different tee and it's a different course. You can play from day to day, weather-wise, it could be a different course. I don't think you have to make any actual change to the course, and I'm not a fan of I'm a traditionalist. Like I said, my in-laws have been members down here for 40 some odd years. I've been coming here for 32 years. If they never changed anything, I would be the guy that says, yeah, that's great, because I know when you come out here, that's one of the beauties of this course. It's iconic, and I like the course the way it is. So I can't really sit there and go, yeah, this is what I would change, because that's when I pull around on Red Rock Drive, I take a deep breath, and hopefully the other people do too.
I think this is a course you could play every day. I could definitely play it every day of my retirement, and keep playing it. And like you, Andy, I wouldn't change the course. I can't think of anything. Maybe little incremental improvements as we go along. Continue to work on cart paths. You know, work on a sand trap or two. You know, changing out some sand over time. Maybe not try to do them all at once, kind of thing, because that can be pretty expensive. And I think that's part of the really, again, excellent fiscal management here is that you and the current board have done, that we're taking things at the right pace, and realizing what a gem the course already is, and just, you know, maintaining.
As far as any physical change to the golf course, I'd say none. And we should write into our bylaws that any change to the course has to be done by a selected and approved or signed off by a selected and approved architect that the club interviews and hires. I will ask everybody in our membership, even if you're at home watching on video, who's a certified golf course architect among our membership. Got it, nobody, right? We shouldn't be tampering with the course. We should find an expert that manages that for us and helps us with that. I do think cart pathing the remainder of the course would be a good idea. It would allow us to have play in inclement weather in different seasons without damaging the course. The number one thing I would do that costs very little is we need tons and tons of repetitive education of members on how you take care of a golf course and how you fix ball marks and fill divots and rake bunkers.
Jason would second that as well.
Yeah, all the groundskeepers do it.
I think it's a great question, and that's why we have a long-range planning team set up to give us some answers on this. Everybody has their vision of the course. I think we all talk about the beauty of the rocks, exposing the rocks. I think there are some holes that we could take better advantage of the green, like number 12. I think we can put the pin in very few spots, but I really echo the comment is that that's part of why we want to come up with the master plan for the golf course. So we can kind of pull these ideas together. There's a lot of things that, there's a few things that the infrastructure we need to focus on. We have a aging irrigation system that we're doing some repairs on now, that's critical. And I think in the future, in the near future is our water management program. We all know water is an issue, and it's not real exciting and changing in the golf courses, but it will help direct how we manage our golf course and manage our keeping our greens green and just taking advantage of the water source that we do have and manage it appropriately. But again, I will come back to, that's one of the things the board has recognized. We need to have a plan. And that's why we have a team committed to the long range plan is developing these master plans for the facilities and for the golf course so that we can kind of pull all the members' ideas and kind of prioritize them. And do them. So appreciate that question.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Any more online?
Mm-mm.
Any more in the room?
I have a question, not for all of you, but for Gary. Having to do, maybe two questions, having to do with long range planning. With water shortages throughout the country, and Aurora now talking about limiting water usage in certain places like golf courses. If Douglas County were to implement something like that, a water restriction on golf course usage, do our senior water rights to this lake allow us to circumvent that, or where are we on that? Or do you not?
I'm gonna instruct my client not to answer that.
I'll listen to the lawyer. A few years ago, the board with Ray Iverson created a water. We had an attorney look at our water rights and our water storage rights, more water storage than it is water. So I don't know the answer to that, but I know that we do have a book of knowledge. And we have some people that have water right knowledge. And I think that's a risk. That is part of the course that we need to just be prudent. We've talked to Jason about what are we doing today that would meet any criteria of a water management program. And he says we have a lot of the items in place. So there's a few things we probably can do to up that game, but people are aware of it. It's not like we're not doing anything at this point, but it's a great question. I think it would probably involve a lot of expert advice.
Okay, second question, again for you. You mentioned the water irrigation, our irrigation system. I don't recall how long it's been in. How many more years do we have on it before we think we need to?
Well, we have about a week to get a repair done. That's happening now. So that's why it is important is we have, our pumps have been, I want to say 15 years, and we've had some issues with it. So we're working on that
Isn't
now.
it being replaced this year though?
We've approved to replace the pressure maintenance pump. And we're going to look at the large pumps and see what condition they're in. So that we can evaluate and know if we need to put a program in place to proactively replace them rather than just wait till they fail, because they'll always fail when they're burning when it's the hottest and we need most water. So we're aware of it and we're working on it, but those are the kind of things that the course we need to look at to make sure that we're structurally strong and we have the right infrastructure to maintain the beauty of it.
Thank you.
Can I ask, do we have a capital reserve study that we work from?
We have a capital, dedicated capital funding, and then we have we call it a capital dues that is being managed, our projects are being managed against that capital dues. So we are low on our asset replacement. We're low compared to our industry. We're bringing that up. Dan McMahon is kind of leading that charge and keeping us aware of where we are And our focus is to increase our asset base using the capital dues. And we have dedicated initiation fees that are being rolled over as part of those capital funding. I think that was your question.
Yeah, I only asked because we went through a process elsewhere to, we actually had Club Benchmarking do it, where they did a capital reserve study, examined every piece of equipment on the property, numbered at 3,000 in some line items. And then use that for planning, out 20 years, the expected useful life of different things and start to back capital that way, so. If we're
We
not
have that
there
asset
yet,
listing, we haven't done the planning, which is what we're pulling together as a strategic plan as part of that replacement value.
Yes.
So really at the boss comments, I'd like to know what each of your views are on having operating reserves.
I'll go. You wanna go?
No, go ahead.
I'm a believer in, and I've been involved in situations in the past where capital reserves got robbed to cover operating shortfalls. And then when you need capital, the cover is spare. Not a good situation to be in. In terms of, so capital reserves, I think are sacred and get touched only for capital improvements and capital needs for the fund. Operating reserves to fund operating shortfalls, if that's your question. I think when you hit that shortfall at the end of the year, you either bill a 13th month of dues, or you do an operations overrun assessment, the membership to fund the shortfall. Is that what you were asking?
Well, more in terms of proacting, in terms of what type of operating reserve you think the club should have in the event there's a recession and other things happen that are going to affect the club financially.
I can't put a number on that, and I don't see building up a huge operating reserve. Again, capital I think is important, and operations has to, be funded along the way.
Well, I would say where we are today is that Lori will have to correct me, because she is very aware of where the issues are, is that we do have a budget that has a reserve. A small one, about a $70,000 reserve. And it's been in the intention that it is prudent for us to build in a reserve in case something does happen. And as we think that's not probably enough for much of an interruption, and that we would like to build it slowly going up to have a reserve. But a big thing that we have made is we've moved from this with the members' approval and the increase in the dues in 2020 and a capital dues. Before that, we were taking excess money out of operating to do capital improvements. The members agreed to put in a capital dues fees, and that is dedicated to the improvements and the replacement of the assets. So that's where we are today, but it is also part of the strategic plan under the financial pillar that we're building, is to build a reserve enough that we can assure we won't have assessments. And that's the big measure today, is not to have assessments, but we think we need a little bit more of a reserve. Not a huge amount, but a percentage of the operating.
I think the capital reserves, as he indicated, are sacred at that point. And I do think, not to echo everything, but I do think that the long range planning is really where you're going to need to address some of these things. Your question having to do with water, we just went through a global pandemic. You have to, if we haven't learned anything over the last 2 years, you do have to have a long range plan. It sounds like what Gary's saying, that's really something that's being addressed. So, I do think that, that's one of the reasons why you don't make changes just to make changes. You have to make sure that these are long range planning, that we've got the money to pay for, and we're not just doing this just to, for short-term gain. We got to look at it. This club's been here for a long time. We've survived a lot of ups, a lot of downs, because People have made some pretty good decisions, and I think with the footing that the board's on right now, they've done a really good job, and they're taking a look at some of the long-range planning, but you two guys have both raised two good points regarding, nobody knows what the future is gonna hold. Let's make sure we got appropriate reserves in place.
One more question. You mentioned 70 grand operating reserve. What are we talking about in terms of weeks payroll that covers? In or out of season? Anyone know?
So week and average, or 2 weeks in average season,
In season,
in season, week and a half.
week and a half. In season.
70.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's considerably more in out of season.
I'd like to add to that answer just a little bit. I mean, I think of my history here anyway. Culturally, I think it's a little more difficult to do an assessment, has been. My members, a lot easier if we built it into the dues and, I probably am the minority here. I think the operating reserve should be pretty significant. Such that if there was, I'll call it some kind of event, no matter what, we could have a cyber event, we couldn't do our billing for 3 months. How, could we continue to meet payroll and move forward? So, I mean, I haven't studied the budget in detail, but I'd say we need to be able to operate anywhere from 3 to 6 months without dues. That's pretty significant. Now, I think it'll take a long time to get there. Maybe some small change in our dues or whatever building in order to start to build that. And it would also be like the capital reserve, that would be untouchable except for within certain guidelines that it would be able to be utilized. Because it is a reserve for more significant events.
My recollection on the capital, when we increased the capital dues from $50 to $150 or whatever it was, 60, the language in that ballot initiative indicated that could not be used for anything but capital. Is that correct?
I think it is.
I think it is.
Yeah, so it's dedicated to capital.
Couple more.
How about that? I just want to confirm, are you done with President Obama?
I'll be done at the end of the calendar, this calendar year.
So are you going to continue to have both memberships?
I've had both since 2009. I probably will keep that one for a while. I don't know how long I'll want to drive 45 minutes to get there. Further down the road, but yeah, I don't plan on walking out on December 31st and
So-
Keats.
Back to your comment about culture. And most of us here are probably in the higher end of the age group.
Longer tenure.
Longer term. We have a lot more, this is the most younger people I've seen. We've been here 18 years, which isn't fun. This is the most younger people we've seen as members of the club. A lot of it is the pro memberships. So how, if anybody wants to comment on this, how do you reconcile a culture change with younger people as opposed to the traditions of golf itself and traditions of this club? As far as, like dress code and, code of conduct and all that kind of stuff. And it just seems like in society, things are getting so casual. Where I don't want to do that, that's stupid, tuck your shirt in, not wear your head hat backwards, that kind of stuff. So how in the world do we reconcile that with the younger people? Is that our culture change that we have to accept?
It evolves, and as I said, I've had the conversations before that longer tenured members, if you don't embrace some change, you're going to feel like your club got taken away from you and you won't recognize it anymore. You need to participate in that. Newer members, you need to understand the people that got you here and built this place, and you need to understand what's important to the whole community. And that just takes a lot of communication and a lot of conversation. And I've watched it happen. And I see, at Columbine, again, 40% of the members have been there 5 years or less. And I'll go at some of the events And some of the guys that are playing match play together, you would never pick this young guy and this older guy to be teammates and playing golf and having beers. And that's just so gratifying to see. But it's, you know, it's just a lot of open conversation and putting the goal out there and then communicating a lot. You know, being very transparent, and it's uphill, right? It changes every day. I was in the pro shop today with Keith we were talking about dress code and looking at the FootJoy catalog. And a lot of the FootJoy clothing, especially for women, doesn't meet our dress code. And it's FootJoy. They were the oldest fashioned golf wear manufacturer out there for the longest time. And now they're getting more modern and reefer. You can hold it. So. You know, so we're just gonna have to embrace that, you know, some of this is changing and, you know, we have a dress code, we don't enforce it. It would look a little different here if we did. Part of that is when we're in tough times and we had to do coupon book play and all these non-members were here. And you couldn't really tell them to tuck their shirts in or whatever else, because you really needed the money. And now we're not there. So now we have this opportunity, I think, to work on the culture and bring it back to what we want it to look like. And yes, that may look like women wearing FootJoy leggings out on the golf course, because that's what LPGA tour pros do, right? And FootJoy thinks it's okay, and or we deal with people that don't. I don't know, but that's for us to decide. And that's going to take, to the points made earlier, people serving on committees be invited to contribute their opinions and participate in the conversations on what we really want to be.
Does anybody else have a comment?
Yeah, I'll tell you a couple of things that we've worked on this year that I think is heading in the right direction. One is we've pulled all of our policies into one common document called the club policy and rules, because they were spread among, I'd say, 12 different documents that we had, and some were only known because they were sent out by an email. So we pulled together some of these so that you can pull up the one document and see what is expected of members, and there's other policies if you want to get more involved. And then the second piece of that, we also recognize with in the membership area, when we're bringing in new members, these new policies and rules and our bylaws and all of that has been historically, we've said, well, it's on the website. Atlanta now is doing an orientation or a team to orientate people on these new policies. So when they come in, they get a chance to see what the policies and rules. And as we read through some of those, we said, well, then maybe we need to be a little more clear about it. So we really have a common platform. If we need to change the platform, we now have a way to introduce that change to our new members as they come into the club, to say, hey, at least I know what they are. Now I may decide what I do, but we are communicating what we expect. And I think that's a big change, and it's a good step to get the new members up to speed on all the things we talked about, how to take advantage of the club as well as the expectations of the club. I'm excited that it's helping us with the new members.
Yeah, I would just like to echo. So the communication element of it, you raised a point early on about communicating, you know, how do you fix a ball mark? How do you, what do you do as far as what's the dress code look like? You think the dress code's bad here, you gotta go to court with me and see what people wear at court now. It's an amazing thing, but you know how that gets stopped? You get one judge that says, don't ever come back here like that again. And you know what? That rumor comes, the rumor comes that, hey, you don't want to be in front of Judge King, because Judge King, you know, you wear that in front of Judge King, you're not getting anything from him. So it will eliminate, it is part of the culture. I don't agree that you just have to, you know, say, it is what it is. Okay. I don't agree with that. I do agree that communication, I love the fact that you're saying that we're communicating it now. We're not just saying, hey, just go to the website. It's really easy to say, go to the website. You know what? I don't have time to go to the website. But when she's sitting there in a membership meeting with my son, explaining to him, hey, look, this is what is expected. You can't wear jeans in the manor house. You gotta do this and that. That's how it gets out. And I do think that that people have a lot of pride in this club. And I think more that, I know that maybe Nate's probably not one, or Keith probably not one to get into an adversarial situation, but I think a reminder or a signage or something like that that indicates that proper golf attire is appropriate in the club. It's warranted on the course, things like that. I do think that that's something that could be emphasized, let's say. I don't think it's something where you just say, well, that's the culture today, because I can tell you right now, there's judges out there that won't tolerate it, and I certainly don't think that we have to tolerate it. Everybody's paying the same amount of dues, doesn't mean you can come out here and just wear whatever you think you can wear, so. I'm in total agreement with you, ma'am. I think that's something
I
that
think
needs
that's
to
what
be,
separates us.
And
it needs to be emphasized, and, you know, I've always felt like when I would bring my kids down here and things like that, you know, we're in khaki pants and tucked in shirts, and they're wearing a belt and, you know, things like that. That's just, I think it's somewhat learned behavior, and I think it's something that can be re-emphasized, and I love the fact that it's, you know, they're not really relying upon the website for that.
I think we need to do a better job of setting expectations of the members and communicating those. You know, and I bring guests here, and I do bring a lot of guests to Berry Park. We have buddies that always want to play here because it's such a great course. They start to go slow, I tell them to speed up. I only have to tell them once usually, you know, that, you know, we got a group pushing us from behind, we'll start moving forward. Or if I see them, don't prepare their ball mark. I think the board and management can set all these policies, but it will take the membership to enforce them. And some of the best clubs I've played in Colorado, the members are more worried about other members telling them that they haven't done something than worrying about if management or a course ranger is going to drive up and tell them that, you know, they're breaking some rule. And I think that's a cultural shift or change. It wasn't needed at Berry Park before, but now that we're at a full membership and we have a lot more, you know, golfers, I think it's something that we all have to kind of take responsibility for. And I think it's, you know, it is tough to do. I can tell you one time this year, I drove to a group in front of us because of slow play. But I drove up and introduced myself and said, hey, I'm Marvin Mcdaniel. How are you? Nice to meet you. Did you know, it's kind of open in front of you for a couple of holes and I'm kind of slowing down, and I'd really appreciate if you guys could, you know, pick it up a little bit. And they were super nice and said, absolutely, sorry about that. You know, and next thing I know, they were full ahead of us. And then we had to pick it up. Because then, you know, the groups behind us thought we might be slowing down. But, you know, it's not something that we really had to do in the past because members did really, I won't call it police themselves, but we're really cognizant of the effect on other members. And now that it's a full club, that's something we all are gonna have to kind of do. Board can set rules, but we don't have rangers sitting on every hole. So members will have to be, you know, very politely help each other, and understand what the expectations are.
And I will say from personal experience, there's a phenomenon known as the boundary effect. And if somebody can't get with the program and figure things out, talking about a 4Ts for 30 days. It works. It works. And their friends get it, and their friends' friends get it. And you can't do that just willy-nilly, but when it's merited. And it's an interesting phenomenon again, because you don't have to publish anything. The person that did the bad thing will tell all their friends, can you believe I can't play golf for 2 weeks because I refuse to do whatever, or I brought guests and snuck them onto the course when guests aren't allowed. Can you believe they did that to me? And their friend is going to say, yes, I believe it.
Well, I'm glad I let you play through today.
That is,
And I got to meet Bob as well.
it's only a conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that honestly is a very hot topic in the industry, with dress codes, with young members joining clubs that have never been members before. They had a great article about, the front of the picture was guys in cutoff shorts, t-shirts, hat backwards. And the title of it was Golf 2.0 or whatever it was. And if that's not the image we want to portray, then it's not the member we want then. So
But do young people think that's funny that even happens?
I think there is that, maybe that mindset, but as long as we're setting the tone as soon as they come in the door and having that conversation. It's managing those expectations. So, Coda, you had a question.
Hi, I'm Dakota and I'm on the board right now, and this is directed to Bob, but anybody else can answer. Several of you talked about member involvement. And I feel like we really have trouble getting member involvement in committees and at board meetings. If we have a board meeting and we see a lot of people come in, we know there's trouble. Yeah. And so, what experience do you have at your club as far as, I mean, tonight, other than people that are sort of have to be here, we have about 10 people. I don't know how many are online. To me, that is just not being part of the membership of a club that people should.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard. The way I've seen it done before, the governance committee recruits people and keeps a roster of people that are interested in serving the club, and what their interests are and what their skills are. And that governance committee then assigns people to the committees, and then if they like serving on the committee, maybe they'll want to serve on the board someday. I mean, not everybody, and I don't know if you want everybody. Some people are just best suited to just being a regular member and paying their dues and having a good time and supporting the club and dining and bringing guests.
Well, one of the things that club governance says is that, club benchmarking rather, says that it's best to try to get people on the board who have been on committees. And.
No question,
And so, you know, I don't think any of you are areas, but we found that to be a problem also, that we have people that apply to be on the board, but they haven't been on a committee first. And you know, we really want to make that stepping stone.
and that's honestly what I'm accustomed to as well. You know, maybe my background helps support, you know, my being at this table right now. You know, maybe it doesn't, but no, I get that. And I think committee service first is the right answer. For those that aspire to serve the club. I mean, the other interesting thing when you read the club benchmarking stuff is you want to have to talk people into running for the board. You should worry when somebody's constantly pounding on the door saying, I want to be on the board. Because you have to look and see, is there one item on their agenda that they're bringing to the table that they want to, you know, and then they'll lose interest once that is settled. So usually, you know, finding people the way Ted did with Andy, hey, would you be interested maybe sometime, you know, rather than Andy chasing Ted around the course, hey, can I be on? You know, the way that works is kind of the best way historically from, you know, the club benchmarking data. So.
I think on your question though, I mean, you raise a really good point, but there are some people, like you said, that just want to be members. They pay their stuff on time, but they may not know about a particular issue. You raise the issue having to do with water. And I really do think that that's going to be something that's going to come up. You know, maybe we have somebody in our membership that has that type of background, whether they're either, you know, a water lawyer, water geologist, engineer, anything like that. Sometimes you can just engage those people on a particular topic, say, hey, look, you know, we could really use your help on this. And a lot of times they would be interested because it's their area of expertise. They may not have any interest in, you know, grounds maintenance or a membership drive, but if you go to them on a particular topic that they feel, you know, strongly about, or you know, their background is in something along those lines. And I don't know if we have the ability to, you know, have that type of background on folks or anything like that, but maybe that's part of our outreach to get to know people a little better, to know what they do. And so, you know, if I need somebody, hey, what about this gentleman? He might be able to help us. Sure.
Anyone else? Any questions? Yeah.
I have a question. So this is for Gary. You have an unusual perspective. You've been through this process last year, and you know, I commend you for bravely coming. But I'm just interested, you know, when you came into it last year, you didn't know what being on the board was like, how's your perspective changed from through the year that you served on the board and now coming back?
Well, that's a great question. No, I didn't know really what to expect from the board, so I tried to read up on the documents and tried to talk to some people that have been on the board to see. And one of the things that I felt most comfortable coming on the board was working on the management structure, working on just how an organization runs, because that's been my background. And I was able to fit in through being a secretary and then as the working on a strategic plan, trying to put the processes in place. And I saw the strong support from the board and the membership. There's been some really great successes in the last year. And that's been because we've had some really good people working on projects and people and the membership getting some faith that we're spending the money wisely. So that's been very rewarding. What I'm excited about is now that we have put together and we are thinking strategy, we're not just thinking day to day, and the members have made that possible because of the funding. We are now thinking longer term. We're putting plans in place to think that way. And then we're starting to put the elements underneath that. And I'm excited to be involved to help drive that process, to continue to see the successes of long-term planning, strategy planning. And so we're focused on replacement of assets. We're focused on enhancing the golf course, but we're not making small changes. We're looking at the longer term. I'm excited about that, and I think it's the board's been very open to go through this. And I tell you, a lot of organizations you work with that you start talking about strategic long-range planning, and they're just kind of yes, they're not willing to put the effort in. The board, I'd say, has been very willing to put the effort forward to develop a plan and put his steps in place to be successful. And as everybody said, long-term planning is how clubs become successful. That's why I'm excited to get involved again and keep that process going.
I mean, I'm a little disappointed, Ted, because frankly, you told me I'd get a company car. Like, that's how we played golf. I don't know. You know what? Whether I get elected or these guys get elected, anybody that's watching this or anybody that's here, this process is worthwhile. It's worthwhile getting to know everybody here, and it's comforting for me to know the level of people that are in this club that have the talent and the desire to want to be part of this board and share the same, love of this club that I do. So regardless of whether or not, whatever the outcome is, it's been great to meet everybody here, and it's a process that's worthwhile going through. And everybody, like they say, if you're not going to vote, don't cry. Well, you know what? Get involved, and whether you win or you lose, it's great to hear people talk about, hey, we may have a water issue here. We might want to take a look at that. We might want to look at some long range planning. There's a lot of talent in this room, and there's a lot of people that have spent a heck of a lot of their life down here. And this is a great process to go through. And so, I'm thankful just to be part of the process. So.
All right, I think we are going to wrap it up.
I have one more question.
Is it about the car, Ted?
It's a question for Marvin. So Marvin, you were out on the course today, right?
Yeah,
Do you want to run us through what happened when you were like 30 yards short of the green on 15?
no.
So you put it in the hole.
I didn't expect it to go that way, but everybody that's not here, please promote this online to watch this and make sure everybody that is voting has an opportunity to see it, so they can at least speak knowledgeably about it and also make the right decisions that they're passionate about. So once again, eval the 12th, physical here on the 13th, and you have 1 month to get those in. There's going to be some other information and data on there too to look through. So we appreciate everybody coming in tonight, and Miss Dakota has actually created some sort of, we won't call it a raffle, but a giveaway.
Yeah,
Or,
so in order to try to really